This is BD World. I am Syed SHAHBAHT and you are watching Fault Lines. 2.6 billion people on planet Earth are facing the shortage, rather acute shortage of water. This means less water to drink, less water for sanitation and personal hygiene. There are 4,000 children dying every day due to the shortage of water. 266 million human hours are wasted every day by adults and women in pursuit of clean drinking water. When it comes to subcontinent and particularly Pakistan, the situation is quite bleak at the moment. International Monetary Fund and UNDP have estimated Pakistan to be one of the most severely water starved countries in 2025, by 2025. And this water starvation is going to rise further by 2040 to an alarming level. Further, it is also a very ironic fact that Pakistan and India that are under an agreement of Indus Water Treaty since 1960 are not enjoying very good relationship with each other at the moment. Once again, India has taken a step that is considered to be a unilateral violation of contract signed between the two countries by the virtue of announcing construction of a dam on river Chenab. This is a violation of the contract that both the countries had signed in 1960. According to this Indus Water Treaty signed in 1960, as I said earlier, Chenab, Sindh and Jhelum are the three rivers on which Pakistan has exclusive right, whereas the rivers Satluj, Ravi and Beas were given to the use for the use to India. The three rivers that have been given to India have turned out to be sand strips, completely dried in Pakistan. Water is only available in these three rivers in the season when there is flooding in India. However, the water rights for Chenab, Jhelum and Sindh, that is in this, belong to Pakistan. But unfortunately, the water level in Pakistan and in particularly the Indus River has also gone very down. In order to discuss it further, my first guest in the program is Khwaja Hamad Akbar. He is a geopolitical scientist. He's joining me on Skype. Khwaja Hamad, I welcome you to my program.
Thank you, Subhath, for inviting me.
First things first, so we started from the global big picture of water. And as I said in my introduction, the entire world is facing this crisis. How far you will agree with me on that?
I completely agree with you. Whatever the stats you were telling to your audience, it is a reality, but a sad reality. Globally, the water scarcity is actually connected with the climate change the Earth is facing. So, to discuss this, when you are particularly referring to the case of South Asia, although it has been a real success that since 1960, the Indus Water Treaty has been considered as the most successful bilateral treaty between two countries. But at the same time, in 2016, after the false flag operations of Uri and the Prime Minister Modi said an historic statement that blood and water cannot flow together. So after that, we are facing that the India is repeatedly violating the Indus Water Treaty and has not given Pakistan the access to the data that is promised as per the IWT. So this is the case we Pakistan and India are facing here. And recently in March, the Indian cabinet has approved a construction of a hydropower plant on Chenab River in the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So that is a clear violation of Indus Water Treaty because there will be a basin in that dam construction, and that can store water, and that will limit the flow of the Chenab water stream. And
Khwaja Hamad, I wanted to come to that in the later part of my program. But since you have touched it now, would you kindly explain this in a bit more detail, this water treaty that we are talking about? To my understanding, it was a division between Pakistan and India. Three rivers were given exclusively to Pakistan and three were given to India. But what else were the obligations on both the countries? Can you share a bit more detail of this agreement?
Thank you. Sabhat, I'll just disagree with you with the word of exclusivity. Uh, the no both from India and Pakistan, no one can use the water exclusively. They don't have exclusive rights. They can use each other's water, and they cannot stop the stream from flowing the water. And let me explain you. As the Indus River is the lifeline of Pakistan's agricultural economy. It comprised of uh, Kabul River, Zankar, Gilgit, Balgaram, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, and Satluj. Initially, it started in 1948 when India stopped the water from the canals that were flowing from the eastern Punjab to the western Punjab. That is western Punjab, that is a part of Pakistan. So after that, that was causing a really trouble for Pakistan to gain the waters, and the scarcity of water was a issue for became an issue in 1948 and early 50s. So in this regard, Pakistan started a diplomatic effort to engage India to have a consensus with us to the division of division of the waters of these rivers. And since then, it is considered as the most successful treaty, and it is very that Indians Indian takes the impression that they were being stabbed by the own government, and Pakistan took the advantage of Indus Water Treaty. But clearly, it is determined that no country is on the edge of an advantage. It was a balanced treaty, in my opinion, but we Pakistanis failed to take the complete benefit of this agreement, and could not convert this into could not develop a water management and water conservative strategy that we were promised under the that we were supposed to do under the World Bank facilitation program that started in the result of Indus Water Treaty.
Hamad, are these rivers that we are talking about running out of water as well? I mean, if India is not doing any bad and if Pakistan is not doing anything sad, is it a fact that over a period of time, as you said in the early part of my first question, that there is a natural phenomena also hitting the flow of the rivers? And if so, what is the impact of this rivers going down with lesser water now?
Approximately in this time, let me quote you the figure. They're approximately near to the accuracy, as Indians don't share the exact data with us. So almost 16.8 crore acre feet water is flowing in these six rivers. And as per the Indus Water Treaty, India is supposed to take the share almost 3.3 crore acre feet water from this arrangement. But India is currently getting 3.1 crore acre feet as they claim. And to compensate that 6 or 7% of the crore acre feet, they want a conservation program to be launched in India, water conservation program. And for this regard, they take an excused narrative, and they are building dams and small canal management programs in Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. And the main agenda and at their stake is they want to supply water to the largest Indian province, that is Rajasthan. That is actually the 11% but barren land of India. So they have a greater agenda of supplying water to Rajasthan. And
Hamad,
in this
Hamad,
regard,
Hamad, I'll cut you here. So, is it a unilateral violation of the contract? Because during the contract, as you also mentioned initially, there were some commitments made from the both sides, and as you said, there is not an exclusive right for either of the countries, which means both the countries can use the water, and the only possibility is that they have agreed on a certain flow of water for the rivers that Pakistan enjoys exclusive right on or enjoys a priority right on. So does this mean that the water would be diverted toward different parts of India, thereby causing a lesser flow towards Pakistan?
yes, you rightly pointed out that India is unilaterally violating the Indus Water Treaty and is actually planning to divert the water stream of the rivers. In this regard, in 2016, they started building dams and they started endorsing projects on the Indus River. They and under IWT, they clearly can't do that because this will impact the water stream, the flow, the speed of the water and the of the Indus water. So this is clearly a violation of Indus Water Treaty, as they can't do. Moreover, they have stopped sharing the data. Pakistan wrote in March a letter to Indian authorities to share the data of the new sting, but they clearly the reply was not encouraging from them. They didn't reply to the letter. And in this regard, in recent years, Pakistan have advised a method that is called telemetry system, that the automatically data will be uploaded, and both the commissioners, the Indus Water commissioners of India and Pakistan, can access that. But India has not aired their themselves to us. So it's tragic, but India is unilaterally violating and is planning to actually divert the waters to the eastern Punjab and then Rajasthan.
I'm sure, Hamad, this is not the first time India, knowing India quite well, I'm sure this is not the first time they are causing a unilateral violation of the contract. So,
Yes, it's not
what
the first
have
time.
we done in the past when with similar issues have arisen in the past?
They started the first violation of the Indus Water Treaty in early 80s when they constructed Tulbul project on Jhelum. Then Pakistan protested in World Bank, so World Bank intervened and international mobilization was called. So international experts were called and a settlement reached. But they eventually built a project at Tulbul, Jhelum, and that affected the water flow in the Jhelum River.
So what legal options did we exercise in the past? Did we go for arbitration? Did we go for direct diplomatic talks? I'm trying to understand what consequences this might have for Pakistan.
For that, we have to actually look into the agreement, that there is a clause and there is an article that that forced two countries to have an Indus dedicated commissioner of for this treaty and for this arrangement to look after. But in the last years, these offices have failed to reach a consensus because there is a communication gap. Indians don't want to talk to us because they want to drag the point. But here comes another article that empowered us, that gave us the opportunity to call for a neutral observer or an international arbitration court that we could access and call that this is happening, kindly help us, because Pakistan is suffering. So at the here at the part of Pakistan, there is a bit laziness due to the political instability in Pakistan. So they are not actually paying attention to it. It is unfortunate, but it is happening here, that we actually not exploring the
Since
legal option we have under the Indus Water Treaty that India is bound to abide by.
Hamad, since you are an expert of strategic affairs and you have a very keen eye on the issues of subcontinent, is it not another act of coercion? Is it not another way of Indians' hegemonic designs in the region to just do some damage to Pakistan in any possible manner?
In Sabahat, there is a terminology we describe to explain this phenomena, that is called water weaponization. And India is exactly doing that, because there is a thought behind Indian actions, that they want to bring Pakistan under pressure, as the Pakistan economy is already struggling with the affairs. So they want to put pressure on through damaging Pakistan's water system and bringing Pakistan's economy in more crisis. So, and they are actually following the examples of Ethiopia and Egypt that have a similar kind of issue on River Nile. The Turkey, Syria, and Iraq have this kind of issues because they are using this kind of the river water flows to the advantage of to their geopolitical advantage. But in this case, we have a successful example of America and Canada, that they have concluded, and they have the rivers are flowing between America and Canada, but they don't have this kind of problem, and and they don't use geopolitical it for geopolitical consensus. And interestingly, there is another example in our neighborhood, that Afghanistan is using this. There is a river to the and taking it a geopolitical advantage from Iran, because they have India actually helped Afghanistan to build a dam on that river that flows from Afghanistan to Iran. And in this same similar regard, in the previous regime of Ashraf Ghani, India made an effort to construct a dam on Kabul River, and they were actually helping and manipulating the facts, and encouraging the then government to actually stop the stream of Kabul River that falls into Indus River, and that will eventually impact the water stream of Indus. So this has been going on in recent years. So this is actually a they are
Point taken,
playing a
Hamad.
geopolitical
Hamad,
game
point
to
is
take
taken.
advantage
But
of the situation.
Hamad, point is taken, but with regards to the construction of dam that has been announced by India on River Chenab, what are primarily the concerns of Pakistan? How serious of a move this specific construction of dam will be?
Actually, under IWT, the World Bank has cleared few previous projects of India on the basis of river stream dams. So, so in this regard, India is claiming that it will not have a conservation basin or conservation canal for water to build the hydropower plant. But it is not the reality. But that dam, if you want to produce electricity or install hydropower plant, you will be forced to have a conservation portion of the for the dam, and that will eventually impact the Chenab River. And we need to clear the reality for the people of Pakistan first, and then we must raise the issue on the international forums that this eventually will impact us. This is not clear project, so this will impact the stream. This is the main concern Pakistan has, and Pakistan is asking for the data of the water that is flowing till the point of the project, and after that the water they will be that will be released from the point. But India has refused to share the data, and there comes there comes a point when you can easily assess the evil in this in their thought and in their process in their this project, that why they are reluctant in sharing the data if the project if they are not conserving the water there.
Point taken, Hamad. My last question from you is what options do Pakistan have at the moment? What can we do about it? Is there a body that can help us for a better arbitration? You just pointed out World Bank that plays a phenomenal role for development of such projects in developing countries. Can World Bank be an arbitrator for Pakistan in such an hour of crisis?
Yes, Pakistan has the best option available under the Indus Water Treaty that empowers, that give us the opportunity that I described earlier, that if both the commissioners cannot reach to a point or cannot solve a problem and stuck in a hurdle, they call a neutral observer from international organizations, and they can appoint a neutral person whom they both agree and don't have an issue. If he cannot fulfill the purpose, then Pakistan could go to an arbitration court that could solve this issue for us. But Pakistan should not delay any, because the project will be constructed, and this is what Pakistan should do in this regard, but immediately.
Thank you very much, Khwaja Hamad Iqbal, for being guest in our program.
Thank you,
Ladies and
Sabat, for
gentlemen, this
inviting.
was Khwaja Hamad Akbar, and he brought out some very important points. One of his important points is that India is weaponizing water against Pakistan by unilaterally walking out of the treaties that have been signed bilaterally. He also said that lack of sharing data is one of the hegemonic designs, is one of the evil intentions of India by not providing Pakistan the right information it needs. We'll take a break here and join you with the second segment of program. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. In the first part of this program, we discussed the agreement that we have with India. We tried to understand the larger picture, what is causing problem in Pakistan's river, because we understand that the rivers in Pakistan are running dry. As identified by IMF and UNDP's report, Pakistan will be a water-stressed country by 2025, and this water scarcity is going to rise a lot by 2040. But what exactly we are doing with regards to national policy of water conservation and management? Is Pakistan's government apprised of the fact that we have to build a strategy on national and provincial levels on war-footing basis? For this, I have today invited a guest in my program. His name is Engineer Shujaat Ali. He is a water consultant, hydrologist, and PhD scholar from SHAHBAHT University. Engineer Shujaat, I welcome you to my program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, SHAHBAHT, on your program, Fault Lines.
Shujaat, as the first guest has told us, this was a larger picture that actually sets the benchmark for what is happening in our rivers. Help me to understand, as a hydrologist, how does all of this translate into an overall water crisis for the country?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. SHAHBAHT, you just mentioned that in 2025, Pakistan is going to be a water-scarce country. Let me add some figures to it. In 1951, we were having 5,246 cubic meter of water per capita, and now in a period of 71 years, it has been reduced to 1,000 cubic meter annual per annum per capita, and like in a just a moment of 71 years. The report which you mentioned, it states that in year 2025, the water will be reduced to 846 meter cube per annum per capita. So that reflects obviously a very grave situation. We are losing our water. And why is it so? Because we are not utilizing our surface water completely. By surface water, I mean the water which we are getting from the rivers, streams, and lakes, glaciers. So we are utilizing just 2/3 of the available surface water, and we are wasting 1/3 of the water in the clean fresh water in the ocean without even utilizing it. That is actually putting a burden on our groundwater. And the groundwater.
By groundwater, you mean the water that we pull from the earth?
Yeah, the water that is available beneath the surface of earth in the aquifers, and that is the natural gift from the Almighty. And the state of art practice is that the world's countries, developed countries, they are keeping this water as a strategic asset, which we are over abstracting it.
So that's like a reserve that nature has given us for odd times.
Yeah, and we need to secure it for the coming generations. And the normal practice is to utilize the surface water for the domestic use, for the industrial use, for the irrigation use. But SHAHBAHT, let me tell you that currently we are using approximately 70% of water, 70% of groundwater for the irrigation purpose. We are using almost 75% of the groundwater just to fulfill our drinking water requirements, and 100% of the groundwater is used to fulfill the industrial requirement. So we are focusing more on
I'll have to interject here. So do you mean that we are utilizing the reserves that other nations are not utilizing? And if so, is there a larger umbrella of a national policy that should have been monitoring all of this and stopping us from that? Is there a national policy or a national organization that look after all these subjects?
Yes, we do have the national water policy, and it was earlier formed like in the recent time in year 2009, and after that it was revised in 2018. And the national water policy is giving the framework that how to utilize the water and how to conserve the water and how to make sure the availability of clean drinking water to the average citizen living in the country. Shahbat, let me tell you, the same like you just mentioned, national and international organizations. So UNDP formed the Sustainable Development Goals in year 2015, and they described the 17 goals for the developing countries which they have to achieve in the by 2030.
There are strategic objectives to be set forth for the developing.
So the goal number 6 is specifically focusing on the clean drinking water and sanitation facilities for the average citizen in the developing country. So these international agencies and the national agencies, just I mentioned that Ministry of Water Resources formed the national water policy. They are focusing on the framework. The national water policy, if you give it through, it is more focusing on the master plans to develop the subsector master plans or land use plans on the provincial levels, on the metropolitans.
So that brings actually the provinces to the table. Shujat, I completely understand that after devolution back in 2010, many provinces have been given, at large have been given autonomy on various subjects. So tell us about the provincial governments, how much geared up they are at this very moment while we are facing these acute water crises toward this tremendous problem that we have.
The governments, the provincial governments, they are forced to, follow the sustainable development goals by the donor agencies and obviously the annual development program, the ADPs, they have been formed to address some specific goals. Since I am a water consultant, I know more about the goal number 6 of SDG, that is regarding the water supply and sanitation facilities. So the KP government and the Punjab government, probably they are focusing more on the water and sanitation facilities, and they are forming the master plans and the subsector master plans primarily for the water supply and sanitation. The main focus is to identify the gap between what we have currently and what we will be needing in future. So by deriving this gap, they will be needing the funding requirements, and so I would like to add, since I am a consultant from KP, the Public Health Engineering Department of KP has recently formed a master plan for both for the settled areas and for the newly merged districts. Now the newly merged districts are very much sensitive because they were not giving...
Newly merged is former FATA.
Yeah, the former FATA. So they have formed a proper investment plan for them, that what resources do the newly merged districts have currently and what they will be needing in the coming 10 years. And these plans which the Public Health Engineering Department have formed, they are just targeting the 2030. So they are plans for the next 10 years. And they are just identifying the gap, that how much fund we need in the coming years in order to make sure the 100% water supply coverage and sanitation coverage.
But Shujat, as we mostly cover economic issues, I understand that the government's economic position is quite fragile at the moment. So I'm afraid how much money would be available, and are the provincial governments capable of pulling off these master plans independently, or are there any international organizations that might just be helping them in this regard?
Shahbahat, since I'm a student of urban and regional planning as well, the government doesn't have so much funding. Like if we talk about the budget allocated for 2021 and 22, the net development budget was 900 billion and 64 billion was kept for a net lending. But this is not sufficient to fulfill all the requirements of the country. So yes, governments do need such organizations which are available for funding. And the thing is that Asian Development Bank is playing a leading role in it. And
Asian Development Bank is playing a leading role.
Yeah, most specifically in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Punjab.
Or what exactly they are doing? Are they helping the government with the finances, or are they helping the government with tailoring the plans?
Since I've mentioned earlier that in the national water policy, they were emphasizing more on the master plans. So they are helping the provincial governments to form the subsector master plans and to derive the project.
You will really have to explain what is a subsector master plan.
The subsector, actually the master plan is a very broad figure, broad term, and it includes a master plan of a city will include the transportation and land use planning and everything. When we are focusing on one sector, that for example water supply and sanitation, we will not call it a master plan, we will call it a subsector master plan. So yes, they have helped the provincial governments to form subsector master plans in KP and in Punjab, and to derive the projects out of these master plans in order to know what actually they need. I mean, what infrastructure do they have, what are the shortcomings, what are the hindrances, what are the deficiencies in the current setup, and what they need to address the requirement. So yes, ADB is playing a leading role. They are investing 250 million in Punjab in the PISIP project. Punjab
is it dollars or rupees?
It's US dollars.
$250 million.
Yeah, and they are spending, recently they have initiated a project that is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa City Improvement Project. They are spending like $660 million. So yeah, they are playing a vital role in defining the master plans and defining the
But Shahbhat, just for the comprehension of the viewers of this program, by the helping of these donor agencies that you just mentioned, what exactly these provinces, you mentioned Punjab and you emphasized on KP as well, what exactly they are trying to do? Because as said by my previous guest, the water systems like lakes and like rivers that he mentioned, flowing mostly from the Indian held occupied Kashmir, are under stress and the water is going down. You also mentioned that the underground water is also going down. So with all of this money, what exactly these provincial governments are trying to achieve in a layman's language?
Well, Shahbhat, you asked a very interesting question. You know, the groundwater, currently, if I talk about specifically about KPK, the groundwater is going low because whatever intervention have been made so far, they have just developed the tube wells and they are extracting the groundwater. So these projects are the ones which have been financed by the international organization. These projects are trying to address the water bodies, the surface water bodies, in order to, I mean, fulfill the water supply demands of these cities. Because like if I give you an example of SWAT, the SWAT is a major district and it is losing the groundwater at the rate of, I mean, 40 feet per annum. So such a drastic drawdown needs to be countered. I mean, in coming 5 to 10 years, there will be no water to drink.
But isn't SWAT a place where we see a lot of water flowing in the streams and it's all contributing to a river?
Yeah, they are all contributing to a river, but the groundwater is it is mostly about the subsurface strata. So since it's a hilly region, a mountainous region, the subsurface strata is mostly a hard rock. So it is unable to grab the required quantity of groundwater.
Primarily, we are not relying on the rivers, they are relying on the underground water that's going down.
So what these projects are doing, they are making a paradigm shift from the groundwater to the surface water, and that is supposed to be done because since I mentioned earlier that we are utilizing 2/3 of our surface water, clean fresh drinking water, and wasting 1/3 of it, which would be a huge amount of water. Secondly, the massive urbanization, like we are going to touch a population of 338 million by 2050. So such huge population, the climate change, the other factors, these are also hampering, and these are also abusing our groundwater sources. So this paradigm shift is very much necessary in order to fulfill
You just said the
demand.
urbanization is further stressing the underground water, and it's going to cause more problems with regards to water in the major cities.
Yeah, because I just said because currently 37.2% of your population is living in urban areas and the remaining is living in the rural areas. And by 2050, the World Bank report states that almost 52% of the population will be migrated from the rural areas to the urban areas, and the urban sprawl will be more further reinforced. So by urbanization, they will put more burden on the existing resources, and that is probably the groundwater. So we will be needing ultimately the surface water in order to fulfill our water requirements. Otherwise, we are losing it.
So the most planned city that at least I have seen in Pakistan is Islamabad. And since you have given example of KP and Punjab most of the time that we have spoken, do you find Islamabad even having a proper formula? Because if we can plan Islamabad's water management, we can certainly plan the entire Pakistan to some extent. I mean, at least theoretically.
Shahbahat, since you also live in Islamabad and you know there is a acute shortage of water in Islamabad. Although the master plan of Islamabad was prepared by SYED, and it's an excellent master plan, the grid system is excellent, but still the water, the citizens of Islamabad and Rawalpindi, they are facing the acute shortage. Why is it so? Because the requirement of Islamabad is around 176 million gallon per day.
You said 176 million gallons.
176 million gallons per day, and what your all tube wells and Simli and Khanpur dam is producing is around 62 million gallons per day. So there is a shortage of 106 million gallons per day, which you have to cover. Why is it is happening? Because you must have seen a lot of private boreholes. You must have seen a lot of commercial use of water in the water service station, car service station and car wash stations, which I don't know they are regularized or not, or somehow they are working. This water is getting wasted, and the groundwater depletion is at peak in Islamabad. So you must have to plan, like the Khanpur dam and Simli dam, even they are unable to fulfill the water requirement within Islamabad. So my idea is, like as a consultant, I would recommend to go for river Jhelum or go for river Indus to fulfill the water requirement of the Islamabad. And Shahbahat, you are asking about the most planned city. Just consider the situation in the rest of the country, where it is not well planned.
But Shujat, is there a way out? Because it's a global phenomenon, as I said in the introductory part of this program. We are seeing countries and cities running out of water, particularly starting from Sub-Saharan in Africa. South Africa's few cities are also hit by this problem. So is there actually a way out? Can we improve our lifestyles? Can we adopt policies that help countries and cities to steer out of this crisis?
The first thing we need to do is public awareness. We take water and sanitation for granted. The water metering, the first thing we need to do is water metering. You pay for electricity, you pay for gas. Why don't you pay for water supply? You need to pay for water supply so that you can conserve the resources and the loss of water at user end. The non-revenue connections, which we call NRWs, they are over 50% in almost all the TMAs would report.
What is the non-revenue connection? Okay.
The connections which are taken by theft, they are not
the water theft.
Yes, the water theft connections. And Shahbahat, I'm telling you, they are more than 50%. So if you are not controlling the water theft, and if you are not regularizing anything, I mean, you take water for granted. So it is not for granted, like the guest earlier said, and as you mentioned, that we are running out of it. By 2025, it will be like in the world, there are 17 countries which are going to face the water crisis, and we stand 14th. So we are at the verge of crisis, and if we don't act now, I mean,
Shujat, lastly, one thing that we have missed, I'm promising this is my last question because I've taken too much of your time already, is contamination of surface and underground water and other problem that we are facing as a nation at large.
You asked a very interesting question. You know, we are, have you ever heard, have you ever thought that the water, the domestic wastewater or the industrial wastewater, where it is going and how it is going? It is going in the streams, in the water bodies without any treatment. I'm telling you, we are just, treating 1% of our total domestic and industrial water which we are using. 1%, and the 99% of the contaminated water we are discharging it directly into our water bodies and our water streams and all that without any treatment, and we are contaminating our water bodies. If we are abusing the resources which we already have,
No,
I
but
mean,
how
we have
would
to-
other countries like Turkey would do this, like Iran would do this? How would they handle
I
with this
mean,
problem?
I've recently been to Turkey. I've visited their facilities in almost 7 cities. They are not discharging even a single drop of water without being treated. And,
Which means no contaminated water going to the water bodies.
Yeah, and about the groundwater, I will come to the ADB's role, what they are doing, because ADB is, yet again, I will say, they are doing a tremendous job in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Punjab. They are developing the wastewater treatment plants and the water treatment plants, and it's a first step toward the wastewater treatment. And in this way, I mean, if the same is followed in the rest of the provinces and rest of the metropolitans, rest of the major cities of the country, I think we can get over it.
Thank you very much, Engineer Shujaat Ali, for this very insightful conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we have discussed so far, the crisis is not only of the scarcity of water, it is also a problem of misuse of the facility that God has very generously given to us. We are having this discussion while living in a country that had one of the best irrigation systems in the world. They are generously bestowed by nature by 6 major rivers in this country. But by the virtue of not utilizing our water bodies and by the virtue of not having a policy for disposal of our contaminated water, we have just exacerbated the crisis for ourselves as a nation. We'll join you next week with another program. And until then, Allah Hafiz.